What's up, guys? My name's Miles.
And my name is Fez.
And this is The Commodity. And today we are reacting to how Australia is crashing the world economy and taking down China.
That was not horrible.
Was that pretty good?
Like, towards the end, I felt like you were getting a little British, but not bad.
This video was requested by Smallcog, not to be confused with the other one. So,
the opposite of a BBC.
BBC. So thank you so much for suggesting this video. If I'm not mistaken, this is your first suggestion. We truly appreciate it. Guys, if you want to suggest a video and you want to shout out on our video,
and we need more suggestions.
Yeah, we do need suggestions.
I didn't mean to yell. That's going to hurt your ears if you got headphones
pretty
on.
Sensitive. So if you click on the link in the description to our Discord, you can throw the link to the videos you want us to check out in there. Guys, before we hop into this video, if you would, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. It truly helps us out in getting this out to more people. Also, if you would, go ahead and click the subscribe button and the bell notification icon. That way you guys can stay informed on our future videos. And if you'd like a quick YouTube short exclusive shout out and help support the channel, you can click the join button down below.
And now, just a heads up, he did say that this video
was a heavy topic.
Yeah, so we're not trying to step on any toes or tell y'all how much better we are. I think that's obvious. So
he's just talking shit.
So yeah, I mean, you know, you take it how you want.
Let's watch this video.
Yeah, let's watch the video.
This is the Australian ship called the Topaz. In June of 2020, this ship left the port of Queensland in Australia with 90,000 tons of coal as its cargo. And its destination was the port of Jingtang, where it was set to unload its coal and then travel back to Australia over the course of several days. But that's not what happened.
What happened?
Tell us. Stick around for part 2.
Once the Topaz reached the port of Jingtang, it was not allowed into the Chinese port. So the ship waited. 1 month passed, 2 months, 6 months, then 10 months. And eventually the ship and all of its crew found itself being stranded at sea for nearly an entire year with no end in sight. And as it turns out, this event would foreshadow one of the biggest economic issues that we are currently witnessing today. But to explain why this event happened,
now to be fair, we're having the same issue here.
Yeah.
Now, did you hear what?
When was this video? October 2021.
So did you see what Biden was doing? So I don't know if it was an executive order, if it actually went through any type of voting system. Pretty sure it was an executive order. Because a big reason why all of our prices are so high right now is because there's so many goods and stuff that are on
the ocean,
in the ocean, just waiting to be unloaded. So he just signed an order that if they aren't unloaded, and they're sitting in a certain radius within, as long as they're on American soil or,
waters,
territory. Every single day they're getting fined $100 per one of those doohickeys. What are they called? The
crates.
Crate. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and I assume those ships have hundreds of them. So they're getting charged, which isn't huge. Because, I mean, they're sitting there with them. They're building up the value of it is what they're doing.
Yeah. But
yeah, no, it's a thing everywhere.
This is a current video. So this is the same issue that we're going through right now.
Yeah. Which is actually
this event is also so important, and why it's creating a global economic crisis today. You must know that this crisis that we are currently experiencing may have actually started with a small bird just a few decades ago. A bird that caused one of the biggest crises of the 20th century. This is the Chinese sparrow. In the 1950s, the Chinese government didn't know much about these birds except for, well, one thing. And that thing was, well, they found out that these sparrows ate on average 4 pounds of Chinese grain per year. Now,
I thought they were going to say per
this
day.
may not seem like much,
especially
when you consider that all of the sparrows in China consume only a very small fraction of 1% of the grain in China. But at the time, the Chinese thought that this small fraction of a percentage was too much. You see, China in the 1950s was trying its best to adopt communist economic policies, while becoming completely self-sufficient in regards to agriculture. So, in order to accomplish their goal, they banned privatization of all agricultural products within the country. They also decided that all of the food shall be collected and distributed by the government. They also changed their farming techniques to match that of the Soviet Union. They decreased crop diversity to help boost production quotas. And lastly, they stopped trading resources with all Western nations in hopes of becoming completely self-sufficient.
That's so stupid.
And all of those policy effects took place virtually overnight.
That's a dope-ass shirt, though.
Massive shock.
Look at her shirt.
That is
sick.
Adidas. That is cool. I like how she probably thought she was
in hopes of becoming completely self-sufficient.
So she probably thought she was just having a picture taken of her.
Yeah, and she's just
wobbling back and forth.
All of those policy effects took place virtually overnight, which caused a massive shock to China's agricultural system. And soon, China would begin to experience a decrease in their food production, as well as a very serious national famine. However, there was one thing that would push this crisis over the edge, and that, of course, was the sparrow. You see, remember how the Chinese government didn't like that sparrows ate a small amount of their grain? Well, as it turns out, the Chinese government decided to order the extermination of all sparrows from the country in hopes of boosting food production. And so, over the course of just a couple years, millions of sparrows in China were killed, and as a result, the sparrow became nearly extinct. And it would not take too long before China realized it had made one of the largest mistakes in the country's history. This one single policy change ended up making their famine substantially worse. You see, what China did not know was that sparrows were the main predators for all of the pests in their crop fields, meaning that as soon as the sparrows went away, the crop-eating pests, mainly locusts, began.
There's a reason for almost every animal.
Except for
spiders.
No, spiders have a very good reason.
Yeah, to get stepped on.
Yeah. I mean, I hate spiders like the next person.
Obviously, they have their
But I respect what they're meant for. But I think mosquitoes legitimately have no
purpose.
Like, if we exterminated all mosquitoes, yeah, spiders might not have as much to eat, but hey, less spiders, no mosquitoes, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Swarming the entire country. And these locusts were not eating just a small fraction of 1% of the food like the sparrows were. These swarms of locusts literally destroyed entire farms or even villages of crops at a time. So it was this event that ended up making the famine in China turn into the Great Chinese Famine, a crisis that caused tens of millions of people to starve to death over a 5-year span. And remember, all it took was a few policy changes and one hasty economic decision to cause a crisis on a massive scale.
And the problem is, places like China, again, I never talk down on the people. It's always the government or dictatorships or whatever the case may be. I will always speak down on dictatorships or communism or anything like that. I don't believe that there's a place in this world for them. But had they actually went and spoke with someone that actually works in
science,
no, not even science, but just in the fields, they understand the benefit,
right,
of these birds. Like, they probably see it, and if like 1 year they migrated and it just didn't come back at the right time, I'm sure they've seen the pain that comes with not having them. But let's keep on going.
And well, that brings us to
Shangri-La.
today. Remember that ship, the Topaz, that we last saw being stranded at sea in China?
I remember.
Well, as it turns out, this was also because of a hasty economic decision that came from the Chinese government. You see, in June of 2020, just a few months into the pandemic, the Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison called for an investigation into the origin of the pandemic in China. Now, on its surface, this may not have seemed like much of a story at the time, but in reality, this would be the instigator for the global crisis that we are seeing today. This is because China did not take this criticism of the Australian Prime Minister very well. In fact, because of a handful of seemingly minor sentences from the Australian Prime Minister, China decided to start a trade war with Australia. And again, on its surface, there should have been a clear winner of this trade war, as China's economy is roughly 10 times larger than that of Australia's. But what China did not realize was how reliant it was on Australia. You see, China ended up banning or placing high tariffs on things like barley, beef, and about a dozen other Australian products. And as it turns out, one of these banned items was coal. And so, well, that is why in June of 2020, as the Topaz and 60 other bulk carriers were on their way to China, they all of a sudden were not allowed into Chinese ports with their coal because, well, China overnight banned and canceled all of their trade deals in relation to coal. Now, to most Western nations, coal isn't that important to their respective economies and infrastructure. For example, countries like Canada, France, the UK, and the Nordic countries produce less than 10% of their electricity from coal. And even on the upper end of the Western nations like the United States and Germany, they only produce about 15 to 20% of their electricity from coal. But then we have China. And well, China produces over 65% of its electricity from coal.
Nuts on
meaning
China.
that the less coal China has available to them, the less likely it'll be able to produce electricity for its country. Now
what sucks about this is, again,
the people have to suffer.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, you're fucking over the government, but when you fuck over the government, you're fucking over the people. However, in this situation, I think I'm more pro what Australia is doing.
Oh, 100%.
Because I'm very... Okay, so the U.S. went through a trade war with Donald Dumps and China. I wasn't for it because we are more reliant on China, whereas y'all are able to prove that they're more reliant on y'all over the other way around. Like, so... Obviously, y'all knew more than what we knew because now we're paying for it because our economy, we have literally, we're not an exporting nation as a whole. We import so much stuff.
Right.
And China's like the big one that we use and we need it. And prices have gone up drastically. And
production has lowered drastically.
Yeah. And that's what we're trying to fix with the current administration, with what's going on in the with the shipping containers.
Yeah.
So containers, that's what I meant.
China is actually the world's largest producer of coal, and roughly 75 to 90% of all coal used in China is produced domestically. However, for coal that is used for industrial processes, like the making of metals, and for a large fraction of its coal power plants, China is reliant upon coal imports from other countries in order to fulfill its needs. And well, who do you think was at the top of that list for coal imports to China in 2020? It was, of course, Australia. Before the coal ban, China was importing roughly 78 million metric tons of coal from Australia per year, and to put that in perspective, the next closest nation was Indonesia, where they were importing roughly 48 million tons of coal. And so, slowly, from June of 2020 up until today, China's coal reserves kept depleting, in part due to stopping the imports from Australia. Now, it's also worth noting that during this time, there was some major flooding in Southern and Eastern Asia that caused many Chinese and Indonesian coal mines to close down. There were also a handful of other policies, such as increasing the safety guidelines for coal companies in China, that also decreased coal production. And
so I'm kind of curious why. I mean, obviously, I don't think they make enough coal to cover their entire country,
right?
Or produce or mine, however you want to say it. But if their main reason for the Australian coal, I'm curious, like, is there a better quality to it or less quality?
Well, they said they use the Australian coal for
like smelting,
right?
Or not smelting, but smelting and doing, using it for industrial purposes. That's why I'm saying, like, does industrial need better quality or less quality? Or are they just doing it just to make, so they're not using what they're mining there? And so these companies can kind of pay for it.
Right.
Like, I'm kind of curious of that. Because typically industrial uses a little bit lower quality, like industrial drills and stuff. They use diamonds, but they're like man-made diamonds and they're lower quality. But I don't know anything about this kind of stuff. I'm just curious more than anything.
Yeah.
I say that a lot.
I know.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
So,
let me know.
Because of one hasty policy decision against Australia and a few other environmental and policy events, we started to see just a few months ago that Chinese cities began going dark. Power outages began affecting factories and homes, supply chains began getting severely disrupted again, and Chinese banks that had loans with these coal companies began seeing the signs of defaults on these loans. And as this began happening, China began implementing new policies such as ramping up coal production in their working mines and also importing more coal from other nations that weren't Australia. They also began mandating cutting electricity consumption from factories and residences, and also made their banks start making extremely risky loans to new upstart coal companies in China. But at the end of the day, none of those
are some badass buildings.
Those are some badass buildings.
I don't care. We can talk all the trash we want, but they got some cool buildings.
Yeah.
Those short-term solutions worked, and China was forced to do something that it did not want to do. Remember those 60 or so Australian bulk carriers that were stranded in China?
Yes.
Well, as it turns out, China became so desperate for coal that just a few weeks ago, they allowed some of those stranded ships to unload their coal into Chinese ports. Now, it's also worth mentioning that some Australian ships are still stranded after being at sea for well over a year. And many of these ships also got rerouted to different countries like India and South Korea, who ended up actually buying a lot of this stranded Australian coal. But the effects of this Chinese energy crisis, and what it should be called, which is the Chinese coal shortage, are being felt worldwide right now. Many large companies that are reliant on Chinese manufacturing are seeing similar or even longer delays than what they were seeing at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. In fact, there have been a handful of large corporations that have begun switching their manufacturing out of China and into other countries or even domestically, largely because companies are realizing that manufacturing in China is becoming more unreliable. And because of decisions like this and the shutdown of some factories and the electricity shortages, China's manufacturing industry shrank for the second time in modern history this year. And so, where is this all going? Well, this coal crisis is already taking a chunk out of China's economy and will likely do so for the foreseeable future. And despite this ongoing energy crisis, China still refuses to lift the ban on Australian coal simply because of a few sentences said over a year ago. And a few recent quotes from a Chinese...
That's the most unfortunate part about communism is like, you don't have a say.
Winnie the Pooh sucks, bro.
The person at the top gets pissed off at something, and they can shut something off for the entire country.
Done.
Yeah. Like it's ridiculous.
Energy specialist and a Chinese coal data company stated that the biggest provinces now only have 9 to 14 days worth of coal reserves left. Wow. And with winter coming soon in China, the country will have to make a tough decision. Will it potentially allow power outages in winter and a continual shutdown of its core economy simply because of those few sentences said by the Australian Prime Minister? Or will it lift the bans on Australian coal, admitting that the government made a hasty decision that ended up creating an energy crisis that the country didn't expect? What do you think will happen? And all this means is that China has a few weaknesses. And those weaknesses are its energy consumption and its irrational and hasty economic policies. And as it turns out, Australia, the seemingly innocuous Western nation, ended up accidentally revealing the weaknesses of China to the world. It also revealed that Australia is one of the very few nations that can influence China's economy directly to the point of a national crisis. And who knows, maybe as Australia and other Western nations continue to get closer, we may begin to see a further divide between China and the Western world. Now, I just want to make one more quick note, and that is a video game that I am developing now officially has a Steam page.
It's super unfortunate that it seems like it's going to go that way.
If he gets butt hurt, Winnie the Pooh, which is the guy that runs China, if he gets butt hurt, he comes down on people quick.
But it's unfortunate that we can't all just work together.
Yeah,
Different
ideologies, countries. Eastern countries are very different, vastly different. We've learned that than westernized. Obviously, Australia isn't in the West, but very westernized countries. I just hope that when it comes down to it and they need the coal, I hope Australia just fucks them over so hard. Like, let's say it was like $3 a pound or whatever.
No,
I hope it's like
$30.
$500 a pound after that. Just like, because the government pays it.
Right.
It's not like, see, that's the other issue. It's very like how, like, you know, they consider themselves like a very they became a developed nation.
Right.
China, thanks to countries like the U.S., European countries, Australia, stuff like that, because we've used them so much that they were able to basically fund themselves out of into development. So I think they've got too big of a head. Just like don't get me wrong, the U.S. has a lot of issues as well, but not one person can just sit there and be like, I didn't like the way you said my name, or
right.
Like, so PewDiePie had came out and called him the head honcho of China. He looked like Winnie the Pooh, and now he's banned from visiting China. And he's like, oh no, you're telling me I can't go to this communist country that limits what people see on the internet and limits their food, and it's just like
it's ridiculous to control people. That's stupid.
100%.
People should have their rights
to a certain extent. Like, speed limits are a good thing. Not letting everybody do heroin is a good thing
for the most part.
It's fun, but not everybody should be doing it.
Do we still have any, by the way?
Are you geeking out over there?
Geeking out.
Guys, if you have any other videos like this, I do kind of enjoy these things.
This was a really good video. This is
really entertaining and really informative and really educational. I really enjoyed it.
I think the only toes we stepped on were China's.
Yeah, and fuck China.
Not the people.
Not the people. I'm sure there's some hot. Anyways.
But the government.
The government, yeah. Fuck the Chinese government. Fuck the Korean government. Fuck the...
What Korean government? North
Korean. North Korea.
You got to be specific.
Be very specific in that one. Yeah.
North Korea.
North Korea. South Korea, you're cool. Y'all make some really good snacks, too.
And music.
I've heard. I've never listened. But
BTS?
I have not done the BTS thing.
Really?
Yeah.
They've got... I don't listen to it, but it's good music.
I heard BTS because they did the Old Town Road on like MTV award show. And BTS was there. And then, of course, Cyrus, Billy Ray was there. And then I think Nas was there.
Yeah.
And I thought that was dope as hell.
Yeah, no, I don't listen to that type of music, but I have, and
for your for your personal channel.
Yeah, and it's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It's good. It's good music, mates.
It's good, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see our future videos, hit the subscribe button, the bell notification, and if you want to support us directly, hit the join button. And with that being said,
my name is Miles.
And my name is Fez.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Peace
out, mateys.
Mateys. Arr, mateys.
Arg.
Arr.
And goodbye.
Bye.